Hello everyone, just Gordon here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo real life inspiration video, and soon I'll be traveling to India for my job, so I thought it'd be cool to do a video on the national bird of India, the Indian peafowl. Now the only problem is most zoos don't really have enclosures for them, so let's just start with the ones that do, like Dierenpark Amersfoort. Here the Indian peafowl can be found in the red panda enclosure, which is an aviary with a large climbing frame in the middle, and while the enclosure did not originally have the peafowl in there, they fit into it wonderfully, and they also love to make use of that climbing frame. And it just gives you something extra to look at while the panda's usually sleeping anyway. So next up we have Artis, the Zoo of Amsterdam, and we have this beautiful giant aviary for griffon vultures. I love the way that this aviary is built up against this classical city zoo building over here. And of course inside we can also find some Indian peafowl, so pretty nice mix. You can also pass under the aviary over here, really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. Next up we have Van Blanckendaell Park, and here we have another aviary. This is definitely an interesting one though, as the peafowl share this one with reindeer. Now why reindeer? Who knows? It's definitely not my favorite enclosure. It's a little bland and flat and a little bit dull, but it's not horrible either, I suppose. Just, yeah, reindeer. Next up we have Parc de Bouillon, and here we have an indoor view into the indoor holding of the peafowl. You can see they've got some perches, they've got a little box, a shelter box. That could definitely be some nice inspiration right there in case you want to make an indoor area for your peafowl in Planet Zoo. And as for the outdoor enclosure over here, it's nothing too special, just a big square aviary, a bunch of mesh in there. You don't need the finest of mesh for peafowl because you know they are pretty big, but yeah, you can see him showing off a little bit there, but that's pretty much it for Bouillon. Not great, not bad either. Next up we have the Central Zoo of Kathmandu in Nepal, and yeah, here we do have very fine mesh, which is making it pretty difficult to look inside of the enclosure, but yeah, it's just a pretty simple aviary as well. Then next up we have DoeZoo Leens, which is even simpler. I feel like the peafowl here would normally be free roaming and they only had to be in here for maybe bird flu or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I definitely hope that this isn't how they are usually kept, at least, because it's quite sad. Then next up we have Bio-Topia Dunkerque. We have a couple of aviaries here. The first one is for vultures once again, and I'm not sure if the peafowl actually can enter this aviary or not. I do see a peafowl in the back, but I'm not sure if that part is actually connected to the vulture aviary, so I don't know. There's also the little separation area. I don't know which bird calls this one home, but it might just be connected or additional holding. So let's go into the aviary where the peafowl actually are, but first we're gonna wash our feet. I think this was some kind of bird flu prevention measure or something like that, but hey, them's the rules we follow. So we enter the aviary, and the first thing we see is a cat. A cat is walking around in the aviary. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be there. It doesn't feel like a smart idea to have a cat walking around between all the birds, but hey, maybe that's just me. We can also see a bunch of storks, ibis, and of course the peafowl are walking around here as well. We got some white peafowl, some albinos in here, and on the other side there's also some tortoise enclosures. Here you can see a male white peafowl standing inside of them. Yeah, that's it for Dunkirk. So next up we have Faunapark Flakkee, where we have a very simple enclosure once again. Again, here I'm not sure if this is just like a place to keep the peafowl while they're not free roaming, and they normally would be, or not. I don't know. It feels big enough where it could be their enclosure, but also shitty enough where I hope that's not the case. I do hope they have more than just that. But then at the Zoo of Planckendaell, we have a much larger aviary with all sorts of birds inside. Fittingly, this aviary is inside of the India area of the zoo, and I really do like this one. I don't have that much great footage of it, sadly. So we're already on to Zie-Zoo, where we have a very simple enclosure, nothing much going on here. And the most interesting thing is that they're mixed with turkey. And then at the Zonnegloed, we have a couple of rescued peafowl in a simple small aviary as well. Then last of the enclosures, here we've got Taman Indonesia, where they don't have Indian peafowl but Javanese green peafowl. I thought it would still be interesting to show because at least we got an actual enclosure for them. It's a little walkthrough aviary with a cute little path, and then a separate area where the people cannot get to the birds, and they've got this little stream going down the middle there. Very cute, although very simple as well. And we had the green peafowl also look really beautiful, I gotta say. But yeah, that's it for Taman Indonesia, and those were all the enclosures that I've seen, at least as far as I could find. I'm sorry if I missed any. There's just so many zoos that have peafowl. It was really hard to figure out which zoos actually keep their peafowl in an enclosure, so I had to do it mostly from memory. My greatest weakness. But while I did see a couple of peafowl enclosures, as you can see, most zoos simply have their peafowl freely roam the entire zoo, and that also makes it incredibly hard for me to find footage of all the zoos I've been to that actually do this, since the peafowl could literally be anywhere in the zoo. Also, what would be the point? You probably already know that peafowl often free roam zoos. I don't need to show you 50 clips of a peafowl free roaming a zoo for you to get that point across. And as you can see in the background, I did gather some examples that I could find, but what do I even talk about? Yes, peafowl free roam zoos. You will find them in backstages, you will find them in playgrounds, which I think would absolutely give kids nightmares, but whatever. You will even find them on top of roofs. Seriously, this makes me wonder how the hell zoos even keep them from escaping. Like, what unnatural force is keeping these oversized chickens inside? Probably just food, but yeah, of course, in Planet Zoo, it's not as easy as just releasing a bunch of peafowl into your zoo. The game doesn't work that way, but there are ways that you can create the effect of having free-roaming peafowl in your zoo. You can surround a dedicated area of your zoo with null barriers and turn off escapes if you're playing sandbox, or if you're not playing sandbox, you can do the elephant grass trick to make the peafowl unable to pass the barriers. I think Leaf did a video specifically on how to make free-roaming peafowl or swan exhibits, so you can look that up. But yeah, you could also make a small null habitat around a building and manually place the peafowl on top of the building, or find a way to get them up there automatically. I don't think you'll manage to get a peafowl up in a tree, even though that would be amazing, and if you do, definitely tell me. And please tell me if you actually managed to do this with something like a playground and create the same thing that I saw at Lüneburger Heide, because it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, those are some ways you can get the peafowl effect across. But probably the simplest thing that you can do is just add some peafowl to any of your enclosures and pretend that they just went in there themselves. It's even better if you also make like a small free roaming area outside of the enclosure. That would really sell the illusions that they could get out at any time, even though in the game they really can't. So those are just some of the ways that you can have peafowl in your zoos in a realistic way, taking inspiration from real life, I suppose. But I think there's not much more that I can say about free roaming peafowl. There is one more thing that I do want to show you in this video, however. I guess you could call it the ultimate free roaming peafowl that I've seen, because I have not only seen captive peafowl, I actually saw wild peafowl while I was visiting Nepal. I've mainly seen them in these kind of open grassland areas. I saw one female hiding in a tree as the sun was starting to set, trying to find a safe spot to spend the night, I suppose. And I also saw them a lot on the river bank of the river going through Chitwan National Park. So yeah, now you know what the wild habitat of an Indian peafowl looks like, at least in Nepal. Maybe in India it's very different, I'm not sure. But yeah, hope that gave you some inspiration as well, or hope you just enjoyed seeing that, because I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, that was it. That's all the peafowl stuff that I have to share with you today. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye!